Hi guys, welcome back to the Storytime Society. I'm so happy to have you here. This is Storytime Society True Crime Edition. So Mondays and Thursdays I put out true crime episodes, and Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays I put out regular Storytime Society episodes where I just read regular Reddit stories. These true crime stories and episodes are more based on just one story, because I don't know, I just don't feel right like doing multiple stories in one. But I think we are just going to jump right into it. If you aren't really a true crime person, then you could head over to some of my other videos. I have like so many Storytime Society episodes up of just regular stories. This is going to be a trigger warning that there will be obviously death talked about and possibly other things having to do with true crime that could be triggering. So if that's something that you don't like hearing about, don't watch this. We're just gonna hop right into the episode. This episode is about a girl named Maddie Clifton, who in 1998 was murdered when she was 8 years old. So this is definitely a very heavy one. I did a good amount of research and it was pretty sad. Like, I was feeling pretty sad after it, so just to warn you. But I will start there. In 1998, Maddie Clifton, who was 8 years old, was killed by her neighbor Joshua Phillips, who was 14 years old. First bludgeoned with a baseball bat, then hidden under his bed. Later, seeing she was still alive, he stabbed her in the chest 7 times. Okay, so I have like a bunch of different kind of like details about the case. So starting with like the murder and then Josh's explanation of the events and different facts of the case, and then obviously like the aftermath of what ended up happening to Joshua. 8-year-old Madeline Ray Maddie Clifton lived in suburban Lakewood, located on the south side of Jacksonville, Florida, with her parents, Steve and Sheila, and her 11-year-old sister, Jessie. On November 3rd, 1998, Maddie returned home from school at 4:30 p.m., practiced her piano, and went outside to hit golf balls with kids in the neighborhood. She came back inside to look for more golf balls while her sister had a piano lesson. Maddie's mother kissed Maddie and told her that she loved her, and then Maddie left the house to rejoin her friends a mere 3 houses away. This would be the last time her family would ever see her alive. Sheila called Maddie to dinner around 6:20 p.m., and when Maddie failed to appear, Sheila searched for about 10 minutes before calling 911. Police and community members immediately started an extensive search for Maddie. Hundreds of people posted flyers and canvassed the area. The National Guard was called in to search the sewer system. The FBI took over the case. A $100,000 reward was offered. Still no sign of Maddie. 7 days later, on November 10th, as Steve and Sheila were wrapping up another TV interview, their neighbor across the street flagged down a nearby police officer and directed them to the bedroom of her 14-year-old son, Joshua Phillips. There, officers found Maddie's body stuffed under the frame of Josh's waterbed. And now is going to be Josh's explanation of the events. Recall that we have no first-hand explanation of events from Josh. We have only what detectives told the court that Josh told them. Josh, a 14-year-old, was questioned multiple times by detectives without his parents or an attorney present. The questioning was not recorded. Josh never testified on his own behalf in court, nor has he ever offered any alternative version of events that day. Detectives told the court that Josh said he was in the front yard playing baseball when Maddie came over and asked to join him. Note, I could only find one source that said he was in the front yard when Maddie approached him. Although he would have normally said no because his father did not like him to have people over while he wasn't home, he agreed because his parents were at work. They then played baseball in the backyard. He then claims that the baseball accidentally struck Maddie near her left eye, causing Maddie to scream and cry. Josh was afraid that this would get him in trouble when his father came home, so he dragged her from the yard into the house, causing her shorts and underwear to come off. He said she was bleeding from a gash caused by the baseball. Because she was still crying loudly, he hit her in the head. This caused her to whimper and moan loudly, so he used a knife to cut her throat. He then pried off the side panel on the base of his waterbed and pushed Maddie underneath. By this time, his father had come home, and he worried that his father would hear her labored breathing. So he pulled her back out from the waterbed and stabbed her in the lungs. He then pushed her back under the waterbed, causing her shoes to come off. The facts of the case. In the months prior to Maddie's murder, the Clifton family experienced some disturbing events that they later attributed to Josh. It is not clear to me how definitive it is that Josh is responsible for the first three things, but at the very least, the Cliftons attribute them to Josh. 1. A cordless phone went missing from the house, which was later found hidden in the backyard. This phone had been used to rack up $500 in calls to sex hotlines. 2. A window was shattered on the side of the house. 3. A staple gun was used to staple their furniture and staple Maddie's bedsheets to her bed. 4. Holes were hammered into the walls. 5. A picture of Jesse went missing, which was later found in Josh's bedroom. At the time Maddie disappeared, Josh was home alone. In the half hour before Maddie disappeared, it was later discovered that Josh was watching violent pornography on his computer. On the evening of Maddie's disappearance, neighbors recalled that Josh appeared freshly showered to join in the search for Maddie. He assisted in efforts throughout the week, and Jesse reported that Josh was with me the whole week trying to do everything he could to help out. On the second day of Maddie's disappearance, Josh told officers that he had seen Maddie the day she disappeared, but that he had not played with her because he was not allowed to play with Maddie because of their age difference. In fact, Josh had recently told the girls a sexual joke, which resulted in the Clifton parents telling their daughters to avoid Josh. However, Maddie was allowed to play with older children in the neighborhood and was actually playing with another 14-year-old boy, among others, on the afternoon of her disappearance. During the 7-day search for Maddie, the police checked the surrounding homes and properties as well as questioned the neighbors. The Phillips family, including Josh, was included in and fully cooperated with these efforts. Police searched the Phillips storage shed and car the evening of Maddie's disappearance, and scent hounds were brought in but did not track Maddie to the Phillips home. Between the 2nd and 6th days, police searched the Phillips home 3 times, finding nothing of note except for a peculiar smell. Missy Phillips told them the smell was probably attributed to their pet birds. On the 5th day, a cadaver dog was under Josh's open bedroom window near the waterbed, but did not detect anything. Missy Phillips notes that their beagle never alerted her to anything strange in Josh's room. On the 6th day, officers questioned Steve Phillips in the living room while another detective questioned Josh in his bedroom for several minutes with the door closed as Josh sat on his waterbed. He slept on his waterbed all week. On the 7th day, November 10th, Josh and his father left for school and work just after 7 a.m., leaving Missy a few hours to clean the home. She walked into Josh's messy room and noticed a wet spot on the floor at the corner of Josh's waterbed. She touched the mattress and, feeling that it was soaked, figured that the waterbed had a leak. She lifted the mattress and saw a white sock, but when she went to pull it out, it would not move. She then noticed that black electrical tape was holding the frame of the bed together. She pulled the tape away, and the wood paneling of the base shifted, revealing more of the sock. However, she still could not move the sock, so Missy retrieved a flashlight. When she tried again, the sock fell down, and she felt something cold. That was when the flashlight's beam revealed Maddie's body. Maddie's body was curled in the fetal position, stuffed between the bed's base and the platform that holds the mattress. One hand was clutching a bracket on the waterbed's frame, indicating that she was still alive when shoved under the bed. She was wearing white socks, and the shirt she had on when she was last seen, a red YMCA basketball tee with her name on the back. Her shirt was pulled up, and she was completely nude from the waist down. Her underwear was beneath her, and her shorts were found near her body. However, there were no physical signs of sexual assault. The autopsy revealed that Maddie had experienced 3 separate attacks. There were 3 blunt force injuries to her forehead and the top of her head. Her throat had been cut, perforating her windpipe, and she was stabbed 9 times in the chest and abdomen. The head wounds would have been fatal to Maddie within 30 minutes of being inflicted. The neck wounds caused Maddie to either bleed to death or drown in her own blood. The stab wounds to the chest and abdomen were inflicted after her death. Behind Josh's dresser, detectives located a black Louisville Slugger baseball bat and a Leatherman knife tool. A pair of Josh's shoes had Maddie's blood on them. Police also found multiple air fresheners, incense, and a bottle of Febreze, indicating that Josh was attempting to hide the smell of decomposition. Next to these items was Maddie's missing person flyer. There was no blood outside of the house or in any of the rooms of the house. A psychological evaluation conducted prior to the trial revealed that Josh had 2 lesions in the frontal lobe of his brain, the area of the brain responsible for judgment and decision making. This area of the brain does not fully develop until young adulthood. Damage to the frontal lobe is often found in pedophiliac men. The court again sentenced Josh to life in prison. However, he is now entitled to sentence review after serving 25 years. Josh appealed this resentencing but lost the appeal in 2019. This means the court will review Josh's sentence again in 2023, at which time the courts will determine whether his sentence should be modified based on Josh's demonstrated maturity in rehabilitation, the circumstances leading up to the offense, and the effect of the crime on the victims and community. In the year following Josh's arrest, Jessie Clifton would help Missy Phillips walk her dog and carry in groceries, as the Phillips were experiencing harassment from the community and Missy was afraid to leave the house. Steve Phillips died in a 1-car rollover accident in 2000, after which Sheila Clifton reached out to offer condolences to Missy Phillips. Missy Phillips sends the Cliftons a Christmas card every year. Josh issued a public apology to the Cliftons in 2018. Steve and Sheila Clifton divorced 3 years after their daughter's death. Jessie Clifton purchased the childhood home she shared with Maddie and resides there today. That is... I already read all of that and did, research on that, and that will never be easy to hear. For me, it's so crazy because being so young, you just think, back to when I was, 14, and I just think about what I would never, ever, that would never even cross my mind to do something like that. I didn't grow up under the circumstances that he did, and I don't know, how the effects of growing up, because his dad was, extremely, I read that he was abusive, so, I can only imagine how that affects you, but researching the brain, obviously I'm no neurologist, but researching the brain of someone like this, because clearly when you're 14 years old, that is not a normal thing to do. At any age, it's not normal to, murder someone, but, it's just even crazier to me that you can be so young and think that that is your, solution. You accidentally hit this girl in the face with a ball, so you wanted to cover it up, but, obviously that's also very suspicious. Maybe he is just using that as an excuse, but he really was, a dark kid and wanted to kill someone. We haven't heard anything else, so we don't really know, but it's just so crazy to me, and, it reminds me a lot of, I don't know if you guys know, but if you are, into true crime and listening to true crime pretty often, you probably know of Aiden Fucci's case, which I believe he was also 14, and honestly, it is so... I'm pretty sure he had stabbed his victim 114, 117, around there. I'm not 100% sure, but it was around that, which is just so unfathomable. I don't know if that's the word, unfathomable? I don't know what the word is, but it's also really amazing the relationship that the families kept. For me, I can't even imagine, I just feel I would be blaming the parents because I'd be so angry, although obviously this is, the kid did this, so But I just feel like I'd be so angry. I could not look these people in the face again. So the fact that the sister was helping the mom and stuff was really, that's a big thing to do. But I'm going to read this article. Joshua Phillips cries as he apologizes for the horror of Maddie Clifton's death. Joshua Phillips went into prison as a child, so it was inside buildings surrounded by barbed wire that Phillips became a man, raised by guards who bark orders until their shifts are over and another crew clocks in. Phillips began that life in 1999 at the age of 15. Day in and day out for the rest of his life, he would be locked up with other criminals after being convicted of first-degree murder for the death of Maddie Clifton, his 8-year-old neighbor. I do understand pain. I have become quite intimate with suffering. Growing up in prison, I've seen many dark things, and I've been in some dark places. The killer began when he took to the witness stand at the Duval County Courthouse on Wednesday during his resentencing hearing. Through tears, Phillips told the family and loved ones of Maddie how not a day goes by that he isn't reminded of the horror he put them through and the unbearable loss he caused. Many times throughout this journey, I've become directly close to ending my life just to escape it all. During these times, I was embroiled in a flurry of emotions and feelings: guilt, despair, pain, hopelessness, fear, and shame. Each time I was somehow able to continue on, mostly because I couldn't stand for my mother to be put through any more trauma. She's been through enough trauma. Phillips was 14 when he took a bat and repeatedly slammed it into Maddie's skull. He then shoved the little girl, a girl who'd switch in an instant from leotards and a tutu girl to a girl in cut-off blue jeans digging for worms, under his waterbed. After hearing her moan, he dragged Maddie out and finished her off by stabbing her with a knife. 7 days later, after Phillips' mother had come home from canvassing an area with flyers for the missing 8-year-old, she made the gruesome discovery of Maddie entombed under her son's bed. Missy Dunphy, Phillips' mother, sat almost motionless, staring off into the distance as the details of the horror her son created played out in court Wednesday. Phillips, now 33, is being given a chance to get out of prison. His case is one of 80 that are making their way back to the 4th Judicial Circuit after the U.S. Supreme Court said it was unlawful to automatically send youthful offenders away for life because science shows that the brain is not fully developed until a person is in their mid-20s. Therefore, an undeveloped adolescent brain can make a person irrational and impulsive. I had no clue what life meant, what death meant, nor the depths of suffering that would follow one act, Phillips said as Maddie's family and others broke into tears. I had no inkling of how long suffering could last. I have lived long enough to understand what really suffering was. I did something horrible, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Even now, after all these years, it is just so unfathomable that all this could have occurred. It tears my mind to know that I stole such a precious life from you, from the world. I wish I could take away your pain. A nationally known psychologist and expert witness from Chicago, James Garbarino, testified that, in his opinion, Phillips truly is remorseful, a step in the rehabilitation process. He said Phillips, at 14, suffered from the psychodynamics of his family. He had a father who was emotionally and verbally abusive and a mother who suffered depression. He described Phillips as a teen who was socially isolated and estranged. He didn't feel connected to positive experiences as an average teenager, Garbarino said. He had feelings of hopelessness, despair, possibly suicide, which is not surprising given the psychologically abusive treatment by his father. Phillips's father has since died. Garbarino met Phillips in February and issued a series of evaluations. In spite of hearing all the details of Maddie's death and of the Phillips deception, he said Wednesday he could say with confidence that Phillips has been rehabilitated, and the crime, as monstrous as it was, is not an indicator to how he will behave in society if released from prison. He has moved beyond that period, and that will not become part of his life again, Garbarino said. Assistant State Attorney Bernie de la Rionda asked Garbarino if he could guarantee that The doctor, who's dealt with 40 or so resentencing cases of juvenile killers, said there are no guarantees. I feel pretty confident about him, he said. Phillips cried during much of the doctor's testimony before taking the stand himself to address Maddie's family members, who since Monday have filled 3 full rows of benches in the courtroom. I pray every day that you are able to live your life in spite of the injury I have caused you. Phillips continued over the strains of dozens of people crying. I am supremely grateful to have an opportunity for physical freedom. If any joy arises in my heart, it's immediately tempered by knowing that these proceedings bring all of it up again, face to face, the horror that occurred in 1998. When I walk the rec yard here in chains, I look to the skies through mesh wiring, and I thank God repeatedly for giving me hope, but my next breath is always devoted to wishing peace and healing to all of you. I wish there was some way that, like, you could, like, I genuinely wish that, like, scientists would figure out something that, like, was for sure, and they could scan the brain and see how it's developed, and if it's developed enough to, like, fully feel like it's been rehabilitated. It's just really hard because I personally feel like prison is not, like, the system just isn't really set up to rehabilitate people, in my opinion. I honestly feel like, I mean, obviously there are, like, groups and things that help after getting out of prison and things like that, but, like, being in prison, like, I honestly feel like that shapes you so much, especially as a 14-year-old, like, being there for so long, I feel like that would just shape you so much. And, like, I hate to say that, I don't think it would shape you in a good way, but maybe in some cases it would. It's just, like, very hard to believe for me that, like, obviously he was so young. He was a very young child. Like, 14 years old is so young, but to do something so horrific is just, for me, it's very hard to understand, honestly. So that is the case of Maddie Clifton. May she rest in peace. That's obviously it's one of those cases that's just so terrifying and hard to, like, wrap your head around. I think that he should spend the rest of his life in prison. That's just how I feel about it. But let me know what you guys think about this case and what you think about, like, the whole 14-year-old thing, because obviously this is something that a lot of people have different opinions about. A lot of people think that when you're so young, like, you shouldn't be tried as an adult, and that you should be given a second chance because when you're so young, like, obviously you have a completely different brain, like, your brain is not fully developed. So let me know what you guys think about that, and if you agree with the judge's decision to resentence him and stick with life in prison or not. Personally, I do. I will see you on the next episode of the Storytime Society. This is today's episode, Thursday's episode. It's Thursday. And tomorrow, Friday, will be a regular episode of Storytime Society, just regular Reddit stories. But let me know if there are any cases that you would like me to talk about in my next videos of true crime. I'm still getting used to the whole true crime thing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye.